Luke, we've travelled to London together.
We have.
About to go into some meetings.
Yeah.
And I thought it might be a fun time to mess with you whilst we were sat waiting for the client to come.
Okay, let's do it.
There were an old game released by a guy called Mosaic, and it was this idea of being able to influence somebody's decisions and also predict their behaviour. And it used two simple words. Don't lie for me, do you know what those words were?
No. Right. Okay, yeah.
It's the old gag, I wrote down the word no. Do you know what? Incidentally, for people watching this that know that old gag, if you write the letters K-N-O-W...
Yes, so for like, I know.
Yeah, it's much more fun. But it just used the words yes and the words no. Super simple. Really easy. This is the game that we're going to play. You're going to take these and you're going to mix them up. You're going to look at one of them and place it face down on the table, keeping the other one to yourself. Okay. It's my job to try to predict which one you've placed on the table. It's as simple as that. Okay. So you mix them up. Mix, 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 mix. Have a look at them. Decide on whether you want to put down the word yes or the word no, and then you place one face down on the table. So think about this. You made a decision. You haven't told me what it is. I don't know whether you put the word yes or the word no down.
Correct.
So I'm going to ask you, does this say the word yes or the word no? And you can choose to lie or tell the truth.
No.
No, you're not going to play, or it says the word no?
It says the word no.
I saw the smirk on your face. I think you're lying. It says the word yes. There it is. Let's play again. So you take them, mix them up again, right? Mix, mix, mix. Have a look at them. Decide whether you want to put down the word yes or the word no, and then place it down for me. Now, what's really interesting about this is that every single time somebody does this, there's two types of people. There's the type of person that picks the same thing twice because they think, do you know what? This is a habit or routine. He won't think that I'll stick with the same thing. And then there's the more skeptical type of people that change the pattern to try to throw me off. Now, I know Luke, and I've known Luke for a long time, so without even having to look for him, I know that he's put the word no down to try to throw me off, and there is the word no, right? Let's play again, because it's super easy. 3 games in a row, mix them up, mix, mix, mix. It's a super fun game, right, when you get going. Yeah. And then when you're done, you just drop one down. Look at them first, so look at them and place them down. This time, I'm going to ask you to answer inside your head only. Now, you definitely know what you've placed down there. Now, that's just told me what it is, so I'm going to ask you, do you want to change?
Say it.
You just answer out loud. Do you want to change it?
Yes. Can I change?
Yeah, you can change it. Okay. Luke, when I asked you and said, do you know which one you've put down there, you give me a slight smirk. You didn't know that you'd give this away, but that instantly told me that before you'd put the word yes down on the table, which then you've swapped, so this now should say the word no, and there it is, right? So predictable, Luke, so easy to influence. But let's do this again, because whenever I do this, everybody always says to me, you know what, Pete, maybe somehow there's some sort of mark on the card where you can see it, or maybe somehow Luke's giving this away. So this time when we play, we'll play again, except this time what I'm going to do is I'll place my choice down first.
Okay.
Right? I'll always put mine down first, so look away for a second. I'm going to place down this one. So turn around. Right now, do you know what that word is?
No.
It's the word no, or no, you don't know what it is?
No, I don't know what it is.
What do you think it is?
No.
You think it's the word no?
Yeah.
Turn it over and have a look. I'm always making my decisions first, and there it says the word no. Let's play again, right? So I'll mix these up, look away. Okay. I'll place this one down, turn back round. Now try to read me. Think about what you feel it is that I do. Do you think I'd go with the same thing again or change it? Whatever your instincts are telling you, it's probably the exact opposite. So what do you think I've done? Talk me through your process.
So, in my head, I'm thinking you do the same as me at the beginning and go double at
okay.
the start. But when you said think of the opposite in that respect, I'm now thinking this is yes.
So you think this says the word yes?
Yes.
Now, do you want to change? I mean, I put the word no down before, so if you went with the opposite, it'd be yes, and then if you changed again, it'd be the word no.
Correct.
So do you think it's the word no or the word yes?
I think it's the word yes.
You think it's the word yes?
I do.
So that'd mean in my hand I have which word?
No.
Luke. Every time I do this, right? Skull, let's play again. One more time, so turn that way. Luke, when I place this down this time, in fact, I'm going to show the camera what I'm putting down first. This is what I'm going to put down. This. And I'm going to try to influence Luke to go for exactly what I put down first. Luke, think about what you think this is. In this situation, think about what you'd put down on the table. So I'm going to ask you, what would you put on the table right now?
Say it out loud?
Yeah.
I put down yes.
You'd put down yes. Now, do you think that's what I've done, or do you think I've gone with the opposite of that?
I don't know.
What?
Can I change?
You can change, yeah?
I think you've gone to no.
So you think this says the word no?
Yeah.
Now, I showed it to the camera before we began. Turn it over and have a look. Have a look.
It's good. No, it is.
3 times in a row, proving that we are totally influenceable. Cool, that, isn't it?
That's cool. That's really cool. You know, what was quite nice about that last bit of it was where it was just like, and I genuinely was saying to myself the whole time, it's saying it yes, and I'm not having any change. But then I thought, you know what, sack it, I will change it.
It's good.
Nice. That is so nice. Let's call that.
So I'm taking a quick break from spraying the car. I thought I'd come in and share with you a simple effect that blows people's minds. It's an effect that we're inspired by an older effect called decisions, and that were published by Mosaic. Now, this effect was popularised by Derren Brown, and if you've ever watched the performance of Derren with Stephen Minch, this will allow you to perform a version of that effect. If you've not seen it, go onto YouTube, check it out. I highly recommend it. The version I'm going to teach you can set up in about 10-15 seconds. It doesn't really take a long time once you know how to do this, and once you've done it once, you'll be set up until the cards wear out. So what you need is some blank cards and a pen. I use a Sharpie marker. It means that people will be able to see it very boldly. It's a great pen to have. And I know I'm sort of pitching this as though I'm trying to sell you a pen, but mentalists often carry Sharpies around because they're easy to be able to be seen when you're showing it around a table, and at the same time, they stay on the piece of card, they don't rub off. So what you want to do is you want to write the word yes on one of the pieces of card. Now pay attention to how you write the word yes, because in a moment you're going to be writing another card that says the word yes on it, and it needs to look identical. Place this piece of card off to the side for a second, and on another piece of card write the word no. Seems simple and straightforward so far. That's because it is. Take the piece of card that's got the word yes on it, and on the reverse side of that piece of card write the word no, but try to make it look like the no that's on the other piece of card. So as you can see, these look relatively similar. That's what you need. So this has got yes on this side, and it's got no on this side. Place these together, no and yes, and place them onto the face of the stack of cards. Now what you're going to do is you're going to flip the stack so that these stay face down. This is the bit where it gets a bit strange, right? We're going to come back to these in a second. Have a look at how you wrote the word yes and try to mimic that on another piece of card. So these are the pieces of card that are on the top now. So remember, these are on the face, yes, with a no on the bottom, and no on the bottom of the stack. And on the top, you write the word yes, and you write the word no. So what you have is this. You're in this position. So after you have these pieces of card, the yes and the no, what you're going to do is you're going to mark the card that says the word no. This is the bit that's a little bit scary for newcomers, because you'll think to yourself, oh, people are going to see this. They won't. You've got to be very subtle. What you do is in the corner of the piece of card, just take the Sharpie pen and just run it over the corner very slightly. And what that'll do, when you look at it, you won't be able to see this on camera, it'll make it look like when the card's on the table, like the corner's been snipped, even though it hasn't. Take the other side and just run a little bit of Sharpie on that as well. Again, all you need to do is be able to see those marks on the back to know that this is the card that says the word no. So basically you're taking your Sharpie and you're just running it slightly over the edges, just like this. If you feel uncomfortable, do it with all 4 corners. I don't need to. I can see that. As soon as that's placed face down on the table, I can instantly see that this is the card that says no. And you're set. Turn these 2 pieces of card face down on the top of the stack. Remember, you've got these hidden on the bottom. Nobody needs to know about these ones. And now you're ready to perform. So you sit down and the presentation runs like this. You take 1 piece of card, 2 pieces of card, You place the one that says no in front of them, and you say, I've written a word on that piece of card. I've written a word on it. Be honest, don't lie. Right now, do you have any idea what that word is? And they'll say, no. And you turn it round, you say, it does, it says the word no. And you go, yeah, it's a little bit of a cheesy joke. But if this one says no, and there's another piece of card here, what do you think that one says? Now, most of the time, they'll come to the yes themselves, and you say correct, it says yes. Now, this is not mind reading, it's just leading into what I think you're going to find very interesting. I think I can read you to know exactly which one of these two cards you'd place down if we were going to play a game where I had to guess if you'd gone for yes or no. So now what happens is you give them these pieces of card. You ask them to mix them up as much as they want. Think about either the word yes or the word no. Place one down on the table and concentrate. Now, of course, as soon as they put one down, if you were to look at the corners of the card that says no on it, you'd know that that was the card they placed down. If there's no markings on the corners on the table, you know it's the word yes, right? So just by using those markings, you can identify what they've put down. Now, if you make it very obvious and you look down like this, people are going to know that you're looking for markings. So what you've got to do is you've got to pretend you're reading them. So they place one down, you tell them to keep the other one toward themselves, and you don't look at the card yet, you look at them. You say, be honest with me, when you were thinking about placing a card down, did you change your mind? Did you change your mind on the one that you placed on the table? If they say yes, you say, oh, is that yes, you change your mind, or yes, you put that on the table? And then if they go to answer, you say, in fact, don't even say anything. Just concentrate. Focus on whichever one you placed on the table. And as you say that, you tap the table and look down at that point to see if there's a marking. So you wait for a natural moment in the performance when you're going to point this out to look down. So full speed, it'd be this. You place one of these on the table. Be honest, did you change your mind on the one that you were going to place on the table? Yes. Is that yes, you did change your mind, or yes, you placed yes down on the table? And as they go on, so you say, in fact, don't. Just think about which one you placed here and now look down for the marking. You say, now I think that you're like most people. In the first round when put under pressure, and then you make a little bit of fluff up, and you say, I think you'll have gone for the word no. So now they turn it over and it's a hit. You tell them to pick it up and think of one again. And you say, this time, place one down and look at me and concentrate. Again, you don't look. You say, now, all you need to do is concentrate on whatever you've put on the table. Don't give this away. And you casually glance down, look for the mark again. And you say, now, I'll tell you that most people in the second round, and don't give anything away, place the same card down on the table. They don't break the pattern. And then you've got to know if that is the same card on the table. And you look at them and say, I don't think you're like most people, though it says the word yes. All you're doing is you're pattering. You're fluffing it up to make it look like you're reading them. The third round, before it starts, pick these up off the table. Remember, you've got these hidden on the bottom. You play a third game. And as you do this, you win the third game. You take these back so that the word yes is on the top. So they turn face up like this. The word yes is on the top. What you're going to do, as you're talking now, you're just talking, you say, you see how easy you are to read. And as you say this, you gesture like this, and you put them like this. So what you're essentially doing is flop switching. That's called a flop switch, where you turn these over and drop these down on the table like this. So now you just talk for a few seconds, and the word yes and no will be facing the top, but your gimmicked one, your double facer, is now on the top. Everybody will assume that it's the exact same card as before, because look, they look so similar. So you go like this, you say, you see, you're so easy to read. And as you just put it onto the table, you've turned these round like this. You sit there for a second, you talk, and you say, but that's reading somebody. And maybe you're thinking that I could tell by the cards which were this. Would you like to play again, except this time I'll place the card down and I'll try to influence you to go for one of them? And they go, all right. So now you pick these two up. So now what you've got here is what looks to be two blank pieces of card. In fact, what I've got is the no, the yes, and the no on the reverse side. If you're worried about people seeing this, you can do something called a frustration count, right? And what that is, you show this, you say, so we've obviously got the word yes and the word no. What I just did there is I show you this side, we've got the word yeah, so I'm showing you the back of the back card, we've got the word yes, and we've got the word no. So I'm trying to do it at this angle, which is awkward. It'd be down here on the table, I wouldn't be holding it up like this, but full speed, it'd be like we've got the word yes, we've got the word no, and we're going to play again, right? So now what you've got to do is just remember to keep this hidden on the back. You look at them, you say turn away for a second. Pretend to mix these, just keeping the back covered all the time. Place the word no down on the table so that you've got the double facer inside your hand. So the no would be on the table, this would be the double facer. And you say, right, you've got to beat me. If at any point you manage to beat me, you win £5. So you put a £5 note down on the table. I say, right, all you've got to do is name the opposite of what I've put on the table, and we'll know if you've got it right when we turn them over. So, do you think I've put the word yes or the word no down? So let's say I'm playing with Will. I do this, these get mixed like this gets placed down. Will, do you think that I've placed down the word yes or the word no? And again, you've got to try to make me wrong, and if you do, you win a £5.
Yes.
You think I've put yes down on the table. Do you want to change your mind? Nobody ever does. I'm going to tell you that you're wrong and that I'm going to beat you.
I'll change my mind.
Okay, so if this says the word no on the table now, you lose. Okay. So I have the word yes and the word no's on the table, you lose. Let's go again. And now look, I pick these up like this and turn them again, right? So we'll play again, Will. I'll place this one down. Think about what you think I'd do. And now I'm just posturing. Think about what you think I'd do, Will. Do you think that I'd place the same one down again, or do you think I'd change to try to throw you off? Or do you think in me saying that, you should stick to your guns and go back to the original one?
My guns and stick to my original.
So what do you think it is?
Yes.
You think yes is on the table. So that'd mean that I have what in my hand?
No.
So I have the word no. So you think this says yes and this says no?
Yeah.
If you're wrong, Will, I've managed to influence you, right? But if I've managed to get this right, if I've managed, all you've got to do is make sure that it's wrong. I'm going to ask you, you think this one says yes? Or you think this one says yes?
I think that was the one on your leg says yes.
If that says yes, I lose. Right, sorry, I've gone too much over this now, but wait a second. The aim is to influence you. Yeah. So if this one says the word no, you win. Yeah. If the word no is here, I win. Yeah. I'm sorry, Will. The word no's there. Oh, you could have done better than that, but you didn't, unfortunately. And so trying to explain it whilst you're performing it is very difficult because there's a lot of different characteristics to play. The idea is that you've just got to hammer 1 point home, and that's I'm going to make you be correct every single time. If I'm wrong at any point, you'll win, right? So it's super simple. So I'll play it quickly. So I show these yes and no. I'm looking at the word no on the back. I cover it like that. I say, we'll play again, Will. So I just mix these up, place one down. I've just got to make you go for what's there. What do you think's on the table?
No.
You think no's on the table?
I do.
And that'd mean yes is in my hand?
Yeah.
I were right again, Will. I managed to successfully influence you. And all you're doing is just showing this side of the card. There's a nice little move called the Scarny move, which is super simple. If, for example, you're wrong, let's say that they say that yes is on the table, you've obviously got to show that no's in your hand. So the way you do that is you just show, and you're holding this way, you're covering it, you show it, you say that one's obviously the word no, and then you do this move where you put it underneath and you go, so that one says the word yes. And it's just a little flip move. What you're doing there is this one says the word no, and as you do this, you just flip, and that one says the word yes. And it's just a little illusion, but it allows you to win every time because you're just taking advantage of the double backer. That's it, or the double facer. That goes down, you can't lose. Watch the performance a couple of times, watch how I frame it. It's difficult to explain it because you're trying to play two parts at once. So don't do that, just perform it, and I promise you it's a nice easy effect that you'll be able to do. So let's look at something else. I'm in the chair with Andrew. Andrew is an expert mentalist and the other half of a two-person telepathy act. Now there's many different variants of two-person telepathy acts. Some are second sight acts, some are clairvoyant acts, psychics, some are in tune with each other's feelings or emotions. They're sentimentalists, as they call themselves in Italy. I think that they are telepathetic, but that's a different thing, right? But Andrew is, without doubt, one of the greatest parts of a two-person telepathy act on the planet. You and Darren, what you do is just so incredible.
Thank you.
And honestly, if you've not seen their show, I implore you to go see it. If you don't know about their act, I implore you to look it up because it's unbelievable. And on this set, I told you that I had a gimmick that allowed two people to perform a very rudimentary version of a two-person telepathy act. So if you're out in a bar with your friend, you could turn your friend into a psychic where you can win drinks. That was the idea. It was just a bit of fun. But it got me thinking about what happened if you left at home your gimmick. What had happened if you left at home the thing that helped you prompt your friend. Now, whilst the set's about what you get inside it, I always try to over-deliver in the sense that I want to teach you techniques that you can use if you do not have your gimmick with you, but you still want to achieve the same results. Or if you're challenged by somebody and they say, well, do that thing with you and your friend, you can't turn around and go, oh, well, sorry, I don't have my gimmick today.
Yeah.
So you need to have an out. And so I got looking into two-person telepathy acts, and I went back through my own notes and I found a technique that were called black magic. Now, it's not my technique, but it's a technique that's such an incredible technique. I want to share with you exactly what it looks like. So if you don't mind, can I be the other half of your two-person telepathy act for a few seconds? Yeah. I'm going to write down a random object, item or thing. Now, it's important that everybody knows that we've not set anything up ahead of time. You don't know what object I'm going to write down. I wouldn't usually be the person writing this down. What would happen is that somebody else would write this down. Now, when I explain the subtleties on this, you'll realise that this genuinely isn't, anything that's set up prior to this moment. But let's just go for it. I'm going to write down a random object, and I'm going to call out a list of objects. You can turn back round, and all you've got to do is try to pick up on what it is that I wrote down. So I'm just going to name things that I can see. So I can see a light, I can see a chair, I can see a globe, I can see a pen, I can see a sign, I can see a book, I can see a vase, I can see a glass, I can see curtains, windows, I can see hearts, I can see picture frames, I can see lamps, guitars, I can see chairs, cushions, televisions, I can see a mantelpiece, I can see beams, I can see paint. What do you think it is that I've written down?
I think it's book.
Book, and there it is. Right. Now, that could be somebody else that selected that. They could pick that as a complete free choice, and this would normally be used with objects in the room, and one of the members of the two-person act would walk out of the room, somebody would stay in the room and touch an object and show everybody else, they'd come back in, the objects would be named out, or somebody would walk around touching random objects, and the second half of the two-person telepathy act would know exactly what that object is. But just to show you how different this could be, I'll do this again. I'll write something else down. You could turn back round. So this could be horns, it could be my cap, it could be that plant, it could be the mask, it could be the coasters, it could be the bird, it could be the slow cooker, it could be that entire unit, it could be that book, it could be the decanter, it could be the security system, it could be the curtains, it could be the carpet, it could be the radiator, it could be any one of my fingers, it could be the lights, it could be my eyebrows. What do you think I'm thinking of?
I think this time it's a mask.
And there it is. A mask. Now I'm trying to name these at random. Yeah. Usually you'd be a lot slicker than that, not you, me, naming them out. But you can see how great this is. So do you want to talk about what this technique is, where you first heard about this technique, how it works, and then we'll spitball a couple of subtleties.
Sure. So this is something that, I've known since I was a kid. I think it was shown to me at a summer camp by a magician when I first got into magic, and the name of the trick itself is the secret to it. It's called black magic. So what actually happens is you genuinely can write down anything, and the way I know what you've written down is you name a whole list of objects. One of those objects is going to be black. In the first instance, you name the pen, so it's a black Sharpie. So you said it could be this, it's the Sharpie. It could be the Sharpie, it could be the pen rather, that's what you said. Now, for us, we knew that once you name that black object, 2 objects after would be the object that was chosen. It was the object that you wrote down. Sometimes it could be 1 after, sometimes 2. We just knew for our code that it was just the second object. That is essentially it. That's all I have to remember. I'm ignoring everything that he's saying. So in my mind, I'm ignoring everything until you name the black object. As soon as you name that, I'm then just focusing on the object that you named 2 after the black object. And then in my mind, I'm just saying that object to myself over and over again, because it's easy to kind of trick yourself. You're naming so many things, I might forget it. So in my mind, I'm just hearing for the pen and then the second object, and I'm just saying that to myself over and over again.
Now, the second time I didn't mention the pen.
Correct, and this is the beauty of this. Because a room has so many different objects, invariably they're going to be more than one object that's black. So the second time round, you said your cap. I know that's a black object, that's the first black object he names. So this time I wasn't using the pen as the pointer, I was using the cap and the object that you named 2 after the cap, in this case was the mask. Was it the mask?
The mask.
Yeah, the mask the second time. And that's the object.
So in a nutshell, whatever the first black object named is, you ignore the one named after, and then you focus on the one that's named after that. It's super simple.
Yep.
Think about what we're saying here, because it's so easy and it can be done so quickly. So for example, just to give you guys an idea of what I might be thinking of, we could try this with you at home. I'm going to write something down and you try it. Remember, you're listening for the black object, and whatever's named 2 objects after that is what you focus on. So this could be the wall, it could be the mask, it could be the pen, it could be the playing cards, it could be the light, it could be the chair, it could be the curtains, it could be the ceiling, the windows, the ornaments, it could be the guitar, it could be the television, it could be this couch. Hopefully you should know what it is. What did you get?
Light.
And I wrote down light, and there it is. It's a super simple system. It doesn't have to be 2 after the black object. It could be 1, it could be 3. If you wanted to get a bit technical with this, you could create a little pin code between you and your partner. It might be 2113. So the first time you do it, it's 2 objects after the pen. The second time you do it, it's 1 object after the pen, the black object. The third time it'd be 1 object after the black object. The last time it'd be 3 objects after. It's easy to practice it just making it 2 objects after, but don't overlook the simplicity of this, because you don't just have to use it for objects. You know, you could use it for playing cards. Instead of saying the black object, you can also change the colour.
Yeah.
And you might be thinking, well, why is it important to change the colour? If you find yourself in a room where there's no black objects, which is something that you're probably not going to find, you're not going to find, but it might happen.
Yeah.
So then you might just turn to your partner and you might just say white. That's it. Just tell them the new colour. You can sprinkle in a layer of impossibility into this by doing one thing. If you take a look at the billet peak that I taught you earlier, peekaboo, with the friction pen, or any billet peak that's included on this set, if you get somebody to write an object down and you peek at what that object is, now even you don't know what the object is. So if you don't know what it is, what you say is, I'm going to psychically try to pick this up from you, and I'm going to imagine seeing this object through my eyes. You're going to close your eyes. So let's say that your act is that you're a second sight act. So one person sees and the other person sees through that person's eyes. Mm-hmm. So you take hold of the person's hand who's wrote the thing down. Let's say that they picked lights, and you say, I just want you to concentrate. Don't give anything away, and I'm going to call out what I'm looking at. So you go, okay, I'm looking at this, I'm looking at this, I'm looking at this. You name the pen. I'm looking at the pen, I'm looking at the mask, I'm looking at the light, I'm looking at the chair. And you just concentrate on what it is that you're thinking of. And when you imagine me seeing that thing, you think about what it is. And now this person can guess what you're thinking of, and you've looked at, that you've psychically picked up on from somebody else. So you might be the psychic that's in the act, and this person might be the second sight, the person that sees through your eyes. So you both have different skill sets, which is a really interesting thing. But that's starting to get into the depths of 2-person acts, and I think that, we don't want to go there. But you could see what I'm saying about how that could work. You can change the colour to a playing card. So let's say it with the King of Diamonds. Let's say somebody picks a card, they're all spread out on the table, and you're touching them. and you've spotted where the king of diamonds is. At any point you touch the king of diamonds, whatever card you touch 2 cards after that is going to be the card that the person's thinking of.
Yeah.
It just works the exact same way. It could be the Joker. You could call the cards out if you wanted it to be ethereal as opposed to physical. If you want it to be metaphysical, you could just call them out. And whatever comes 2 cards after your appointed card, the king of diamonds in this case, that's what you'd go for. Such a simple technique, so easy, but it'll allow you to perform the exact same thing that you perform with your rise gimmick.
Yeah.
I want to share with you a technique that I think I created. It was just created by necessity. I was sat in Dirty Bones in London with Darren, which is the other half of your 2-person act. And Darren is such an expert when it comes to this stuff. But I have to say, and Darren, if you're watching this, I don't mind saying it, Darren is so secretive that you'll never get a morsel of information out of him. But this was the most information I ever got out of him by accident. So we were sat across from each other, Dwayne and I. Darren sat at the side here. And I said to Darren, I said, oh, just show me the name of any celebrity, because you have this incredible thing where you could get them to think of any, even the most obscure celebrities you've never heard of, and this won't work for what we did.
Sure.
But you have to see it. It's incredible. And I said to Darren, I figured out how it works. And I was just joking, I was just winding Darren up. And at the time, like, Dwayne didn't know what was going on. He's just pretending to text on his phone. And he said, well, go on then. I said, well, show me a celebrity. So he brings up Steve Jobs on his phone. And so I performed this 2-person telepathy act with Dwayne. Dwayne and I, we'd never done it before, but Dwayne successfully guessed the celebrity. And then Darren said, oh, well, it's just done like this. But what was beautiful about it is that Darren were entirely wrong, but what he'd come up with was far more sophisticated than what we were using. Right. So he were inadvertently giving me the secrets towards some of this stuff. And so I was mind blown at how amazing some of this stuff is. And it really gave me like a glint at 1% of what you guys do, right? And then when I explained to Darren what we were doing, Darren just sort of laughed, and it were almost like, oh, I can't believe that you used that to be able to do this. So let me explain the technique that I used. It was just a simple hand gesture, a wider hand gesture with a thing that signalled Dwayne as to what it is that we were thinking of. So in the case of Steve Jobs, it was, okay, I'm going to name some categories, and all you've got to do is try pick up on the categories. So it could be music, it could be art, it could be technology, it could be sports, it could be films, it could be books. What category do you think it is? And so that's the wider arm movement.
Yeah.
Okay, so do you think this is something that we use little or often?
Often.
Would you say often, like every day or every few days?
Every day.
So what tech do we use the most?
A mobile phone.
Okay, so you have 2 major brands. You have Apple phones and Android phones. Which do you think is?
Apple.
And who would you associate with that brand?
Steve Jobs.
And that's how we were forcing it, right?
Yeah.
So you could do that with playing cards. Watch how casual this would look, right? So let's say that we were going to perform the same thing, right? So you just grab a card out, take it, have a look at it, and then place it face down on the table. Now, obviously, in the deck, I need you to imagine that these are spread out in front of your face. And inside that deck, you know, you have black cards and then red cards. You have the clubs, the hearts, the spades and the diamonds, the picture cards and the number cards. And obviously, the pictures are like Jack, Queen and King. The numbers are ace through to 10. So take your time to concentrate on your card and look at me. In fact, you know what? It might be more fun if you guess it. And you see how casual that hand motion is? It forces the Jack of clubs.
Yeah.
And all I'm doing is asking you to imagine, and if you watch that back, what you'll see is the same as your rise gimmick, except instead of the buzz that had happened in the hand, it's this, watch. So this could be, it could be black cards or red cards. There's the clubs, the hearts, the spades, the diamonds. There's picture cards or number cards, and obviously the pictures are like Jack, Queen and King. The numbers are ace through to 10. And as I'm saying them out loud, I'm saying, just you transmit to me the colour. And then I go, in fact, you know what? And if your friend's pretending to text, bearing in mind you supposedly don't know what this is.
Yeah.
So now your friend can instantly jump into exactly what this is, right? Which makes it really brilliant. So I'll show you this
so
again.
Subtle as well.
That's it. So I'll show you this again. So let's say that somebody's taken one out. This time I did force the card that time, but I won't this time. I place one down. This person's got the card there. We'll pretend you're just texting away on your phone. So you need to imagine a ribbon spread deck in the air. Now obviously in the deck there's black cards, there's red cards, there's the clubs, the hearts, the spades, the diamonds, the picture cards, the number cards, and obviously if you were to go through the numbers you'd be like ace, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then the pictures would be jack, queen, king. So take your time, really focus on this. What card do you think I'm forcing you?
I think it's the 4 of spades.
And you've never done that before, but
Never.
you could see if you're asking somebody to concentrate just how quick and clean and easy that
Because
is.
it's just so obvious. You know, straight away you get the black, you get the spade, and you had the ace, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, and it was, I mean, it's so subtle, it's brilliant.
That's it. And if you wanted to, if you thought that were a little bit, I mean, the picture cards are better to force there. But if you're going to be forcing a playing card, the problem with forcing the playing card is you might as well just tell your friend what you're going to force.
Yeah.
So you might as well let somebody have a free choice, then figure out what the card is by peeking, and then transmit the information to a friend.
Yeah, that's great.
You know, so it's just a super simple way. It's just a difference between this and this, and literally, it's, you know, this could be, it could be computers, it could be tech, it could be, and it could be so subtle, the movement. So let's say that you wanted to force a certain animal. So let's say you wanted to force a certain animal. So we obviously know in the animal kingdom that there are really large animals and then smaller animals. Which do you think I'm thinking of?
A large animal.
Okay, do you think this is something that's a domestic animal or more of a zoo animal?
I'll say zoo animal.
So we know it's a large zoo animal. Do you think that this is dark coloured or light coloured?
Light coloured.
Okay, and do you think that this is maybe rough to touch or soft?
Rough.
Okay, do you think you have an idea of what it is?
Yeah.
What do you think it is?
An elephant.
You see, so you can literally force, and we've not practiced that.
No, not at all. That's literally
Like
on the
as
fly.
long as you could frame it up in those binaries, you could force anything.
Yeah.
So that concludes the two-person method section of this. But there is something I want to ask you before you go, if you don't mind, because there's no better person to ask than you about this. I know that people watching this set want fail-safe material. They've never performed mentalism, or they've never performed this area of mentalism before, so they'll be new to it. And I want to make sure that there is a fail-safe element just in case they don't hear the force object, they don't hear the black object, or they question themselves. So maybe I'm going to answer the question whilst asking it, but would they just relist it? Would you be worried about asking the sender to relist the information?
So I would have no worries about asking them to relist it, because I'd make sure that this time round I absolutely knew what the black object was, and I knew the target object that they were going for. But similarly, think about what you're trying to do. You're trying to do something that's completely impossible. If you get it wrong, it's really not a big deal. And by that I mean, if you don't know what the object is, you've got a chance of guessing it, and if you get it right, great. But if you get it wrong, that makes it seem more realistic for the people watching it. So don't be afraid of getting it wrong, because it just adds to the believability when you get it right. And I always think that in this branch of mentalism, getting something wrong is sometimes just as powerful as getting it right.
I want to sort of press upon that, because I'm a big believer in that. And a lot of people are in the belief that everything has to be perfect. And the problem is when it's too perfect, it's too impossible. And if it's too impossible, it's not believable. And I'm a massive believer in sacrificing impossibility for credibility.
Totally agree.
And like, I'll give you a quick example. And again, I don't want to go off on a tangent, but it proves my point. Can you think of a random star sign for me that's not your own?
Yeah.
And just imagine it written in the air as a word. And think of the amount of letters in this star sign's name. Just see it like Leo really largely, right? And tell me when you can see it. Now in your head, you mix the letters up as much as you want.
Okay.
And then look toward me. There's an R in there, right?
Yeah.
And an A as well, yeah? There's not an I in there, is there?
Yes, there is.
This is where people start to lock me out and go against the grain and try to throw me off. There's an S in there. And an E.
Yeah.
You went for Aries this time.
Okay.
Let's do this again just quickly to throw another one. Because I'm trying to get a failure, but it's difficult when you've done it so many times. But you got one? Think of the amount of letters in this. Just see it like Leo really largely. There's an R in there, right?
Yeah.
And an A as well.
Yeah.
There's not an I in there, is there?
No, there's
No,
not.
you're doing perfect. Just keep saying like Taurus. Taurus, keep saying it over and over again. You went for Cancer this time.
I did.
And we still didn't get a no in the wrong place. So let's just roll it until we do. But you're going to see why this is important and why it ties in with this point. So think of another sign.
Okay.
There's an R in there, right?
Yeah.
And an A as well.
Yeah.
And an I.
No.
You wasn't thinking of Capricorn.
No.
Okay, let's wash that. Go right back to the beginning and just focus on the image of this thing. Don't worry about the letters because obviously we're struggling with that and it wasn't Capricorn, but... Okay. What was it?
Taurus.
And then you'd get your hit.
Yeah.
See, in that example, the failure is beautiful because what I do is I go, you wasn't thinking of Capricorn? No. Are you sure you weren't thinking of Capricorn? No, I'm definitely not thinking of Capricorn. Okay, well, the letters clearly aren't working. So by failing there, you completely disregard the anagram. You completely disregard the letters that were being fished for because you think, well, they were fishing for Capricorn. So now, okay, let's start again. Just imagine the picture of this thing. And sometimes a failure can really help you in your act by dismissing the method that you've used. Not only that, like Andrew said, you seem like it's more credible because it's showing that this is impossible. It's showing that there is failure. It's showing that there is chance and that there is drama.
And I think by coming across as a performer and showing vulnerability that you're able to get it wrong and still carry on, I think that's endearing for an audience. As opposed to something which they perceive as, oh, well, he can do it, so he can do everything, and it's automatic.
That's
it
the
adds
problem.
jeopardy to what you're doing.
It becomes a game of cat and mouse if you don't do that. And if you look at, you look at the greatest films in the world, I don't know, what's your favourite film of all time? Can I ask that question?
You can. Fight Club.
Fight Club. So you look at the character, the lead character in that film, right at the beginning is showed in a vulnerable light. They're not showed as this slick, elegant person that's got all the money, the girls, and everything else. They're seen as this person that's never stood up for themselves. We connect with that character because of that.
Yeah.
And then in the end, when we see the conclusion, I mean, that's a bit of a strange movie, but it's a brilliant movie.
It's a great movie. I
right?
just love sort of like that movie.
But you take Rocky, for example. The very opening of Rocky fails or he loses his first fight to Spider Rico right in the beginning.
Yeah.
And he even call back and make a joke about it later on. Mighty Ducks. You look at the Mighty Ducks, they're seen as this team of losers all the way through. And then right at the end, they strive by succeeding. But we've already decided we like those characters and we're championing those characters on because of the fact that they're not the winning team out the gate. Everybody loves the underdog, right?
Yeah.
And it also adds texture and peaks and valleys to what you're doing. Now, not to again go off on too much of a thing, but whilst we're talking performance, everybody thinks that their act's got to have the best materials start to finish. It's got to be a banger, a banger, a banger, a banger, a banger, a banger, and a banger. And that's the wrong way to look at it. And the reason it's the wrong way to look at it is because when it's consistently amazing, there's no gauge of what amazing actually is.
Yeah.
So then it's seen as mediocre. So you take the most incredible material ever and it'll only seem mediocre. Whereas if you have these bits of filler or bits that are smaller, 50-50 choices, you can see the contrast between how impressive this is and how impressive the next thing is. And because of that valley, the peak seems much higher. And it gives texture to what you're doing. And that's why sometimes a failure will make the next piece seem so successful.
Yeah.
And I want to finish on two things. Okay. One is how I'd present this type of material based on what we're talking about, and two, a story that was told to me by Jasper Blakely, which directly ties into this.
Okay.
So the first thing is this: whenever you're performing mentalism, I always believe it's better that when you're doing nothing at all, to make it really seem like you're doing something. So really seem like you're getting information out of somebody. So let's say that you were thinking about the light, and I already know it. I'll start saying to you, if this is something that's small, imagine it being small. Really imagine that for me. If it's large, imagine it being large. And if it's okay, it's hard for you to determine what this would be considered. But what I am seeing is an orb of some sort. I'm seeing a circle, some circular cylindrical shape. There's nothing happening here, but it's making it seem like there's something. And in the moments where you're doing something, try to make it seem like you're doing nothing. So when you're doing nothing, make it seem like you're doing something, and when you're doing something, make it seem like you're doing nothing. And the reason is that when the audience try to poke holes or pick at what you're doing, they'll be able to pull at the thread as much as they want because there's nothing to uncover.
There's nothing for them to catch up with.
That's it. They're looking in the wrong area of the performance because they're unballing a ball of fluff.
Yeah.
Right? So that's a very important thing to remember. The story that I want to end on is this, and it's a story about failure. So Jasper Blakely is, I think, one of the greatest performers in the UK. I've been to his mini theatre. I've seen his lecture. His lecture, one of my favourite lectures of all time. Him and Jim Critchlow's lecture, for me, are the best lectures that I've ever seen. And he told me this story whilst we were sat having dinner about an act that he used to do where they got the chance to win something out of a catalogue. So let's say it's an Argos catalogue. And it relied on an add a number pad. But when he'd opened this add a number pad, he'd accidentally opened it at the force side from the very beginning. Right? So they saw the numbers that were on the pad when it were handed to the first participant, and the first participant scribbled them out thinking, okay, I'm supposed to write numbers down, there's already these numbers on there, and they started adding the numbers up, and obviously he was hoping to force a page in the catalogue and then bring out the soap suds so that they weren't going to get the washing machine at the end, but they were going to get some soap suds. Really weirdly, that when people put numbers together and they got added up, it ended up in the same area of the catalogue. So like, let's say it were page 632, they might have ended up on page 628, so they were in the same area. So he says, what's the first digit? And they say 6. So in his head, he's thinking, success, I've done it, right? So they turn to that page and he's reading it off. He says, I think this is something to do with cleanliness and clean. And they're like, yeah. And he's really getting into it. And he thinks he's succeeded. Yeah. So he's really cocky, he's really arrogant. He's been as arrogant as he can. And he says, I promise you that whatever it is, and he's got this big box on stage, whatever it is that you've won, I promise you I'm going to give you. What is it that you've won? And they say, a washing machine. And he's got this big box on stage and he says, are you sure you're looking at that right? And they're like, yeah, it's a washing machine. Right. And he's got like these soap suds inside this box. And the joke was supposed to be that he thought it was a washing machine and he's got the box there, but then he'd bring the soap suds out and he'd prevail, right? It was to add this texture. Yeah. But they were actually thinking of the washing machine just by coincidence. Anyway, he opened the box and he pulls out the soap suds and he's like, I'm going to have to give you this consolation prize. And it were apparent based on his actions that it had gone completely wrong. And he said the applause in the audience were like tiny. The joke didn't land. The outcome wasn't what it were meant to be. And because of his cockiness all the way through it, he just felt a shit. But the brilliant bit was that the following routine in his act was smash and stab. Right. So he turned to the audience and he said, okay, well, I fucked up. So what? He goes, let's move on to the next thing. Who wants to come and help me out with this? And not one person wanted to stand up to help him because they'd seen the act before the smash and stab go wrong. Right? So you imagine that you've seen this mentalist fail and now he's asking you to slam your hand down on cups with spikes underneath. And he said that he purposefully made the act before the smash and stab act fail every single time from that point to drive up the drama of the smash and stab act. And he says his show's never been as powerful. Yeah. And he said that he was also of the belief that unless it failed by accident, not to put failure in there. And that completely changed his opinion when the entire audience were arguing amongst themselves who were going to stand up and who were going to do the smash and stab. And there were couples literally pushing each other. No, I'm not doing it, you do it. Like literally pushing each other to get up on the stage. And he says it was just a brilliant dynamic in the room. So if that doesn't tell you how success and failure can make the difference between your act having texture, I don't know what will. Yep. Is there anything else you want to add?
I was just going to say the other important thing that kind of came to mind when you said that is just bear in mind when you perform, you learn nothing when everything goes right. You only get to learn when things go wrong, and then you can adapt and shape it.
He's 100% right. You only learn in failure. Because when you succeed at something, you're too busy celebrating the success. Correct. When you fail at something, you replay it in the theatre of your mind over and over and over again to figure out what went wrong. Yeah. And it's in those moments where you're going to learn the most. Yeah. So, yeah. Well, thank you for sitting in, matey. Let's get a cup of tea.
Yep.
I've seen so much of it. Do you reckon you could show me something I haven't seen and fool me?
I could probably show you something old that's super simple that your brain will overlook and try to work out, and that's why it'll fool you.
Okay, go on then. Press record. We are recording.
Yeah.
Oh, sweet. Yeah. Go.
Shuffle them as much as you want.
Yeah.
Riffle them if you want. Now, I think we all know this is a marked deck.
Yep.
Right, so first, like, give him another riffle. So deal down 2 packets of cards. Now, the only thing is that there needs to be the same amount in each packet, so as though we were playing a game of cards. And you can put as few or as many as you want, but I will tell you, if you only pick 3 cards, 8 cards, that's all we're going to be working with. The greater the number, the better the effect, but I'm not just saying that because it's part of the method. Happy? Do you want to reshuffle the packets?
No.
Right, so square them up. Now, you and I both know that I could probably know what these cards are because they become key cards with the fact that they're marked, right? But this is what I want you to do. I want you to cut some cards off for a second, put them straight to your chest. And now I'm going to look away. As I'm looking away, I'm going to shuffle these. So just quickly have a look at that card. Look, I'm shuffling these, so I don't know what the top card is. Drop your cards on there for me. Pick the packet up quickly and turn them face down. You're going to start dealing them one at a time here onto this packet, and in your head you're going to tell me what that card is. And I'm going to use underhanded tactics to get what it is. So you've just got to keep a straight face, that's it. So start dealing them down there one at a time. Now in your head you're thinking, well, there's no way you could know what this card is because you were just shuffling these. I didn't do any funny business, but it's a red card, right? I know that. Yeah, but don't give it away. You say I'm going to use them to keep a poker face, right? Keep dealing. You can shuffle them as well if you want. You can do 2, 3 cards at a time. It doesn't matter. Deal them down, drop them down. That's it, right? So I shouldn't know what that card is.
No.
So in a moment, I'm going to deal them down like this. And you're going to give away what it is, right? So in your head, you're going to give away what it is. So close your eyes for a second. Just imagine for a second focusing on the suit. So take your time. And then when you've got it, slowly open your eyes. Okay, I didn't get it that time. Let's go again. Close your eyes. When you've got it, slowly open your eyes. Okay, it's a heart. Imagine the exact value. 4 of hearts?
Yeah. Yeah.
4 hearts, there we go.
No, I am fooled.
It's good, isn't it? It's cool.
That is good. When I had my eyes closed, were you guys whispering?
Did I do anything? Did I? No, nobody told me
No, you
anything.
weren't.
No.
He did something the other day.
That's banging.
It's great, isn't it?
That's really
They
good.
can pick the amount of cards, they can shuffle them, they can be put in
nice
2
shuffle,
packets.
yeah. That's really good. All right, now teach me.
Self-working. It's the 21 card trick.
No, it's not.
Genuinely is.
So when you deal them back, you're counting.
So I'll tell you what, you take those for a second.
Yeah.
I'm going to make a prediction. Can we just have a piece of card from over there for me? So go on, deal 2 packets down.
What, from the deck or from these?
You can reshuffle them and add more, less cards.
Yeah, less cards.
Okay. So wait a second. So I'll make a prediction before we ever begin, and I'll place it on the table. It's right there. Do you want to shuffle these cards?
No.
So square them up. Again, I'll turn away, pick some up quickly from any packet. Have a look, dump them down. It doesn't matter where they're put, pick those up.
Yeah.
I start dealing them here. You can mix them, you don't have to put them down one at a time, it doesn't make a difference. You can do 2, 3 at a time, whatever you want.
Yeah.
So this time we'll do it different. What's your card?
It's the same card.
I know.
Yeah.
I know it's the same card. And I also know that it's a position number 7, which I knew before we ever started, that I wrote down, placed on the table, before you decided to discard cards. Let's count them and see.
Seven. That's so sick, isn't it?
It's great.
That's so good.
It's great.
Yeah, it's cool, isn't it?
That's fried my brain.
Isn't it? It's so good. Okay, one of the things that you showed us was the 21 card trick, but completely repackaged as a brand new presentation. So I thought like for me, it's probably one of my favorite things that you've shown me lately, because I was genuinely fooled. Mm-hmm. And you said about how you can use old techniques, but dressed up in a different way, you can fool and slay people, even if they're incredibly knowledgeable about sleights and magic and stuff. So Yeah, I think it's the first thing I want you to teach me personally. I'm selfish, but then
Okay.
we'll also teach the people at home.
Yeah, no problem. So this is a modern version of the 21 card trick. Now, I must stress it wasn't called that. It was a Robert A. Nelson idea originally. So, you know, we all stand on the shoulders of giants. And Brad once said, there's nothing new under the sun. I thought it'd be really interesting to take a load of old techniques and redress them and show Brad things that he already knows to fool him a second time with something that he should know about. And this is in that sort of category or underneath that umbrella. I couldn't tell you the specific name of the effect that Robert A. Nelson created. I remember reading it were like in More Miracles or More Mentalism or something like that. I picked it up off of library.com. And the original routine itself, it were very difficult to understand the mechanics of, because there were a lot of rules that were set right at the beginning. And it were, okay, you know, you'd need to deal 2 packets of 10 cards, and then in each of those packets you've got to make sure that they follow these instructions exactly, and it were very sort of cathartic and methodical. And then when it came to the end, what you were doing is you were just dealing down and going, oh, and there's your card, like you did in the 21 card trick. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Now, I never liked that. I never liked the idea of the 21 card trick operating the way it operated. I always did it with a full table of cards. Which is something else, but I'd always do it with a full table of cards and then work it out using the same principle, and this is a drastically reduced version. So out of the gate, I'll bullet point each little bit. If you want to fool magicians, you just ask them to shuffle the deck as much as they want whilst you're looking away and talking to somebody else. If you want to fool people that are knowledgeable about sleight of hand, or you're jamming with other magicians, just literally make it look like you don't care what they're doing with the deck. And in this routine, it's one of those routines where you really don't have to. So this take the cards and you say, give them a mix, please shuffle them up. And then I'm just talking. I say, now, think about this. You might think that I know the order of the deck or that I'm using key cards. Yeah, give them an overhand shuffle as well. Turn them that way when you do it so that I don't see the faces, because everybody's just going to think that it's a key card. Now, if I'm working with magicians, I'll point that out. If I'm working with lay people, I won't point that out because I don't want them to know what a key card is. But I might say that I can see the bottom of the cards, and I don't want you thinking that that's how this works. So then I stop for a second and I want to check off a series of boxes as we're going along. So to your knowledge, as a magician, if you're working with lay people, you wouldn't ask this, could I know the order of that deck of cards?
No.
Could I know the order of any of the cards in between the deck? No. So what you're saying is this is not stacked. There's no way I could know the top or the bottom card. You shuffle them up, and if you're not happy, you can shuffle them some more. That's fine by me. You definitely know now that I don't know.
Yeah.
Right, so that's the first box that I'm ticking off, is let them shuffle them. But when you think about the logic, and I'm not going to go off on too much of a tangent, but when you think about the logic here, if the shuffle really mattered, then you wouldn't let them do it. Right, so that's the beautiful bit of logic at the beginning. It's almost like those adverts you see, no magnets, no strings.
Yes.
Well, if somebody's allowed to shuffle the cards like that, then it obviously doesn't matter about the order. But that tick box is also the thing that you're giving them. You're only giving them the bullet points to be able to check back on. So now I say, what's going to happen is you're going to deal down 2 packets of cards like we were playing a game of cards. Now, if we were playing cards, neither of us would have an unfair advantage. So just make sure there's the same amount of cards in this packet than there is in this one. That's the only thing that you need to say. So now what I'm doing is slow down a little bit here, right? So I'm paying attention, because some people will deal them all here first and deal here first, right? Now I need to know exactly how many cards are there, and there's 12 cards in each of those packets. If I'm ever unsure at this point, and you never know what the number's going to be here. Now, if you go back and play the performance back, I say if you deal 3 cards down, remember we're only going to be working with 3. Likewise, if it's like 8, 9, it's a small number. The bigger the number, the more impressive this is. But I don't want you to think that that has anything to do with the method. So if you want to go for 3 cards, you can. If you want to go for 8 cards, you can. It's completely up to you. You've got to know what's here. So there's 12. Now, make sure the rest of the cards are out of play. If you miscount, so you'll notice I can talk whilst I'm doing this. And if you go back to the performance, I'm actually looking away because I'm listening to the... I'm just listening to the sound of the cards hitting the table, which I've used again on this set. And I'll talk about that more in more depth later. But if you miss, you literally say, let's just double check.
Yeah.
So, and then together we'll deal them down. Okay. And I'll say, in fact, just shuffle my packet one more time so there's no way I could know the order of any of them. I'm just reiterating the fact that I don't know the order. And I really don't. But as soon as I know whatever number this is, I just add 1 in my head. So I just add 1 and that's 13. If there'd have been 7 cards, I add 1, it'd be 8. If it's 26, then it'd be 26. It couldn't be 26, but I add 1. And it could be at the end, but I add 1 and it's 27, right? So now I say, from either of these 2 packets, and you can genuinely have a free choice, don't look though, cut some off and put them straight to your chest. Now, all I've got to do is make sure whatever packet the cards are cut off from, they go in the opposite packet. So I know G cut them from here, I've got to make them go into here. If G had picked them from here, I've got to make them go to here. But the way that I do this is I go, I'm going to look away, and I put my hand here. Now this is super important, because watch what happens if he goes to put the cards down prematurely. I say, just wait a second. Yeah. And I can put a little bit of resistance there because I've got to make sure it goes in the right packet. Have a look at that card for me. Right, so you can show it to everybody else in this example. I'll close my eyes. And then when you're done, place them here. And I'm tapping before he's done. Yeah. So now I definitely know they've gone on the opposite packet. So now I say, now pick these up. I don't want to touch them. And now I'm putting in that little bit where I don't want to touch these. So now what I want you to do, and I say you're going to deal them here 1 at a time. But as you're dealing these, I'm going to try to figure out what it is, and you're going to give me clues. Now you mustn't give anything away, because I am going to use underhanded techniques to get to this, and you will give it away. So start dealing them. Now wait a second here. This is important. I'm now all I need him to do is reverse count these cards onto here. That's it. So I'm going to get him to reverse count these cards here. But as he's going down, I'm looking at him saying, just imagine telling me this. Just keep going out. Imagine saying this to me. So this is like a black card, right? No, in fact, it's not. Look at me. Don't say anything. Stop there a second. Now, after I know he's gone past about halfway, that card's somewhere in there, so it doesn't matter. So you can shuffle these as well. You can drop 2 or 3 down at a time. That's another like little thing I added. Drop them down 1 at a time or 2 at a time, whatever you want. It doesn't matter. But now I don't need to do anything, because now I know your card's 13 from the top. So when we count down 13 cards without doing anything, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, what were your card?
9 of diamonds.
Yeah. And there it is. Right, so it's self-working. It just ends up at 1 card more than the number at the beginning, right? But when I were doing it earlier on, the beauty is I pointed out the fact that it were a marked deck, because I knew you knew it were a marked deck. So what I did is I said, now remember, you took these, and I deal 4. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and I go, just imagine what your card is. Now I put it there and I look at the marking. If you want, you can do this. So if you take them for a second, just cut them into my hand, so that we'll pretend it's just a fresh position, you cut the rest. So like this. So just think about what your card is, right? So now I know this is the 10 of hearts, right? So I can deal the 12 cards and then use a peak. And the peak that I'm using there is, because your angle or your line of sight's here, I'm just literally flicking the back.
Yeah.
I'm peeking here, and I go, in fact, we won't even use the cards. It's just you and me. So I know what that is. The second time round when we did this, I said, well, do you want to do it again?
Yeah.
Now, the beautiful thing is, right, and you're going to think that that bit was set up, but you can hand on heart swear it wasn't.
Yeah. I was shocked myself if they could watch it back. I cut the same card. So I was like...
But, I mean, the chances of that happening were like heightened based on the fact that you dealt down less cards.
Yeah.
So in that example, as G just said, when he lifted it up and he looked, he saw the same card again. But I didn't know that, right? I didn't know that at all. And then G reduced the number of cards. So what I did is, I give him the cards, I say, you can use the same number, you can use a different number if you want.
So I think I remember I did 12 each on the first one. I think I did 6 each on the next one.
So as soon as I've counted here,
So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
it doesn't matter how many you
4,
deal.
5, 6.
Well, as soon as I do, what I do is I write the 7 and I place the pen down and I go, you happy with that? Now, before we ever do anything, I wrote this down. And what I did the second time is I just wrote the number 1 more than what were here.
Yeah.
So now when I fold this and fold it, and if we go through the procedure again, so you cut some off, it could be from either packet, you could, what card is it? It doesn't matter.
7 of spades.
7 of spades, so pick these up. You deal them down. You only need to deal like 4 cards here, like even, and now you can shove them and do what you want because it's past the halfway mark. They get dropped down, and now I say, okay, let's. At the beginning of this, you went for a card. What was it? And you went, it was the same card, right? But in this case, it's the 7 of spades. And I'd say, what you're not going to believe.
You get 2 hits on that because you could say, I knew you'd go for the 7.
That's it, the 7 there, which is great. It was just, again, a coincidence, and then you go down 7 cards, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and that's your 7 of spades. And that is as simple as it is.
That's really good.
Because it's super easy. If you don't understand that, just play it back a couple of times, practice it, do it on yourself. Because the first few times you do it on yourself, it's so fooling.
Yeah.
Right? But adding all those little touches in, like the flourishes of, shove them, deal 2 at a time, 3 at a time, it's very Dandy de Ortiz.
Yeah.
You know, the idea of you picking the number of cards at the beginning and it's still working the exact same.
Yeah.
The idea of is there's no key cards, there's the shuffles. The idea of putting it to your chest and picking which packet and drop it onto that packet. And I even did another thing where I went drop it onto there and I went, I meant that one, but it doesn't matter, it can go on any packet. Making out like you were meant to drop it back on the original packet again.
Just little embellishments, right?
Yeah, just little tiny things that you add to it. Now, don't think to yourself watching this, if you are a hardcore mentalist, that you have to do it with playing cards. You can take a stack of billets and you can make drawings on those billets, little flashcards, or you could buy flashcards.
Yeah.
So you could buy some flashcards from like a supermarket or a play store, and you can literally do the exact same thing and it'll work the same way. And now at the end, when you've got it and you've peaked it, you say, in fact, let's do this different. You pick your pad up and now you can do a drawing duplication.
Yeah.
And you've got like a really incredible drawing duplication that's based off the back of nothing. Now, if you wanted to get 2 people to do this at the same time, you could say, would you say you're a creative or an analytical thinker?
I'll say creative.
Creative, and how about yourself?
Analytical.
Analytical, okay. So, because this is based on drawings, I want you to just think of a random drawing for me. So in your head, you think of a completely random drawing.
All right.
And with you, because you're an analytical thinker, I'd normally get you to think of one as well, but I'm going to do it a bit different. You can see I've got these stacks with drawings on, right? I need you to have seen something and then imagine it as the word and project it to me. So now I can do both, and I've brought these in, and now I can use a one ahead, which we'll discuss in depth in a few minutes in the next set of routines. And now you can collect both from just this. It's like a really powerful little simple thing, but mind-blowing. It's cool, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Any questions?
No, I'm going to use that.
Yeah,
Nice.
I only use some. Like a few ideas that can be used this for.
It's super simple. Like super simple.
Just for the sake of completion, I did see you do this a couple times, right? And one of the things that I enjoyed was when you were using mud cards, there was a point where you wanted to get a peek, and you just had them close their eyes.
Oh
and you
yes.
just got your pick out.
So if you ever, and that's another good point. When you're working you're never going to be working in these conditions that I'm working in right now. So for example, I've got a light that's just here that's hitting me in the face. I've got a light there that's hitting me in the face. And if I look in that direction for a second, I can't see the camera. So I have to constantly keep my eyes this way, but that's blinding me here. And so trying to see, whilst that's glaring you in the face, the marking on, I mean, you stare into that light for a second and now try to see the intricate details on the back of these. It's not going to happen. So there's a couple of times whilst I performed a few things on this little performance section, in the performance section, where things have gone a little bit wrong, but you won't notice them because I'm just covering it. And that's one of them is, look, you've got the cards and you say, right, now you've mixed them up. I don't know what it is. Everybody here has seen it. So everybody close your eyes. If I'm that worried, I can literally just lift the top card up and put it back down. And I've done that a lot of times. Like I'm not scared if there's a card with a marking on it to have somebody put their hand on it and say, right, just put your hand on it, just like mine. Right, look, close your eyes for a second. Yeah. And you close yours and make sure you don't lift your hand. So everybody's closed their eyes at the table. And I've got all the time in the world to look at this, and everybody concentrate. G, you just focus on the colour. Jacob, you focus on the suit, and Pickcake, you focus on the value. And I'm going to ask you one at a time to open your eyes and look at me. So G, you open your eyes and look at me. This is a spade. You open your eyes. Sorry, this is black. This is a spade. This is a value. And this is buying me that moment to peak. Right? And it's if I'm ever feeling a little bit ropey because I'm tired or I'm jet lagged or I've ever, you know, like the night before I've just not slept or I'm traveling or there's lights that are hitting me in the face, I'm genuinely not scared just to get people to close their eyes to make my life easier. And in mind reading, in magic, it's a bit weird when everybody close your eyes. Now the coins vanish, look, right? But in mind reading, that idea of, right, everybody close your eyes, block everything else out around you. So you're not using your eyes to confuse you. And just in your head, just imagine your own voice saying that information. Now you specifically in your head imagine the colour. Jacob, you imagine saying the suit, and Pickcake, you imagine saying the value. And now you're only focused on that and nothing else. And one at a time, and ask you to open your eyes and look straight at me. Now, G, you open your eyes and you look at me, bang. And you presentationally make it part of it. You're painting red the blemishes. And so that's a good point because I'd have forgotten about that.
Good to watch you. Very cheeky.
Yeah, no, it's just make your life easy. Work smart, not hard.
Big facts.
Work hard, not
No, work smart.
smart.
No, work smart, not hard.
Work hard and smart.
No, work smart, not hard.
I get it.
Well, you won't, because you make your life hard.
And you make your life smart.
No, I am smart, and I make your life hard. I'm kidding. Right, let's so let's jump into something else.
Amazing.
Yeah, that's great.
So I want to try something with everybody, and I honestly don't know if this is going to work or not. So all take your phones out for a second, and all head to your calculators. And keep the phones towards yourselves. Don't obviously let me see what it is that you're going to punch in. Now you're going to use a varied spread of the keypad. So what I don't want you to do is just go like 1, and then 2, and then 3. All punch in a random number from somewhere on your keypad. And now look at each other's numbers. Chances are you've got different numbers, right? Quickly press the times key, I won't look. And then hit in another random number. And then times it by another random number. And times it by another random number. Times it by another random number. And if you want, you can times it by another single digit. Done? So press equals and all look at each other's totals. You'll see that they'll be vastly different. I don't need to see them. Keep it towards yourself. I want you all in your heads just to add up each of those singular digits. So don't worry about anybody else's, but just add up each of those singular digits. And if you end up at a 2-digit number, add the 2 digits together so you each arrive at a single digit. Now hopefully that makes sense. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me. You done? 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 Done?
Yeah.
Erase your totals out of your phones and place them face down. So what we've just done there is created a random pin code with the group. You see, you have a number, you have a number, you have a number, and you have a number. I'm going to write down what numbers I'm picking up on. Now, I'm not necessarily going to get them in the right order, but I'm going to try my best to work out what they are. So in your head, you just imagine telling me yours. Okay, now you imagine telling me yours. You imagine telling me yours. And finally, yours. I think yours is the easiest.
Thank you.
Keep a straight face when I put it down, don't react. This is what I'm getting, 2963. If I got your numbers, just raise your hands. Perfect.
That's so good.
So devious. I love it.
It's great, isn't it?
Could you do it a second time if people were like, do it again?
Yeah.
You said yeah.
It's repeatable.
Yeah. And then you were like, but you can hide the outcome. So can you show us?
Well, let's say that, because there's going to be a lot of people that aren't performing on 4 people, because it's sometimes an inaccessible number. I'll do it just 2. So both of you take your phones out.
Yeah.
You know the procedure, so just open them up, go to your calculator, and use the varied spread of the keypad again. Punch in a random single digit, and times it by another random single digit. And again, just make sure your thumb's jumping about. Times it by another random single digit. Times it by another one. Times it by another one, and if you want, you can do another one as well. And then press equals, and have a look at your totals. They'll be vastly different. So again, just add each of the singular digits up. But this time, if you arrive at a 2-digit number, keep that 2-digit number in mind. So you've both got a 2-digit number, and if you don't, just say, Pete, I don't have a 2-digit number.
Yeah.
You've got a 2-digit number, you've got a 2-digit number. So imagine your 2-digit number for a second, and imagine yours. I'll even show the camera this. This is what I think it is. If I got your number, just raise your hand. So I got yours. So I got yours. Just think about which one yours is at the 2 numbers. Okay, yours is 18. Yours is wrong though, right? Let me change yours. I'm going to change that out. I think we've got... What's your number?
27.
1827. And there it is. 1827. Yours is 18. Yours is 27, proving that you can do with 2 people and it's repeatable.
So good.
That's great.
And I knew exactly which number were which person's as well.
So that's not fishing. You threw that wrong number in.
No, I genuinely at first felt that's what Oban had gone for, and then I changed my mind at the last second. And what you'd gone for, and then I changed my mind at the last second, and ended up with that. It's cool, isn't it? It looks great.
Yeah.
Okay, so you've got so many presentations, so many methods. As you're performing, and I say, what about this? And you go, oh, let me show you. And you've got like 10 more. And then we're looking at Dwayne, we're burning through memory cards. There's so much we could teach, so much we could cover. You know, they might have seen in the explanations I went on my phone when I started typing some things. I just made a note of a few things that I thought we could talk about because I don't want to take you out of your flow. So this is kind of a jam session. I guess we can all like float around with different ideas and stuff we have.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the first thing for me was everyone, the 4 participants, making a pin code.
Should we actually talk? Because I don't think we actually ever explained. It's self-working, so it's a very quick thing, but a minute on it.
Yeah.
And it's so basically you're getting somebody to get their calculator out, or 4 people to get their calculator out, and they times a single digit by a single digit by a single digit, and you do it a few times.
I'll do it for the camera.
Okay, so
a single digit, and I'll put in a 7.
Okay,
and times that by, and it could be anything.
So I say use a random spread of the keypad so that you're using a few different digits, and times that by another digit.
Yeah.
Times that by another single digit.
Yeah.
Times that by another single digit.
Yeah.
Times it by another single digit.
Yeah.
And times it by another single digit.
Yep.
And then press equals. So the hope is there that they're going to hit a 3 or a 9 at some point, and there's a massive statistical probability that they are going to, as you've just seen. Right, okay, so in this example, when you press equals, have you pressed equals already?
1, 5, 1, 2.
So this is the total. So what it'll do is it'll give you a multiple of 9. So I don't know if you pressed something that were wrong in there, but when you add these up, 5 plus, oh no, that is 9, sorry.
Yeah.
So what it'll do, I was just glancing at it from this side, I couldn't see, I thought there were an extra number underneath your finger.
Oh, no.
This will always equal 9, 18 or 27. And if you do something ridiculous, it'll go all the way up to 36, right? So the first question I ask is just add them together till you've got a double digit. If somebody says, I don't have a double digit, you say, okay, that's fine. But you'll see that this number will always total 9, 18 or 27.
Yeah, so if 1 plus 5 is 6, 6 plus 1 is 7, 2 plus 7 is 9.
So let's just do this again, so you erase it out. Yeah. So, and genuinely do it randomly, a single digit times a single digit, 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 and if you want you can do one more. Just make sure you're giving them enough chance to hit the number and then press equals.
Yeah.
Right, so now when they add this up, if you were to add this up, so 5 plus 8.
Yeah, 13.
So then plus 9.
Yeah.
Which would be 22.
Yeah.
Plus 6. Which,
28.
and then plus 8.
36, yeah.
So 9, 18, 27, 36. It's a multiple of 9.
Yeah.
You see, so it's going to equal 9, 18, 27, and in extreme cases, which that just was, 36. It's never going to be higher than that.
But then 36, 3 and 6 together is 9. So you
That's
can always
it.
condense them
Well,
down
that's
to
what
9.
that's what we did. So all those numbers, if you take 9 on its own, will be 9. If you have a single digit, that's fine.
Yeah.
So if we're doing it with the 4 people and you had a single digit and you just had a 9, I'd say, all right, whatever your single digit is, that's fine. If you've got a double digit, add the 2 numbers together. A 1 and an 8 is going to be 9. A 2 and a 7 is going to be 9. A 3 and a 6 is going to be 9. It'll always equal 9. Everybody has the number 9, right? So now when I write the numbers down, all I have to do is include the number 9 in there. I say, I don't know what order I'm going to pick up these up on. I write down 2963. I lean back and I go, raise your hand if I got your number. And now everybody's going to raise their hand because they see the 9. That's it. Does that all make sense? It's super easy. It's self-working. Single digit by times by single digit times by single digit. They'll hit a 3 or a 9 at some point statistically. If somebody just hits 1 times 1 times 1 times 1 times 1, this is not going to work, right? But you've seen that every time we've done it, it does. So you've got a massively high probability that it's going to.
How you, because I picked up on it, being a magician. They said, you know, make it really random. Use the whole keyboard.
Keypad.
And it made me think of going around.
Different digits, right?
And that's it. And if you're so scared about this, I'd literally say, so take like a random digit, like a 2, punch a 2 in, times it by, say, a 9, times it by, in fact, you pick a number.
Yeah.
Times it by, and you mention the number 9 if you're so scared of it, and it's just going to equal 9, 18, 27 or 36, and then you move into this presentation. When I did it with 2 people, I just had them leave it as their 2-digit numbers and put them together.
Yeah.
And then just to quickly explain what happened, I assume that both people are going to think of 18. Always assume that both people are going to think of 18. But what I do instead is I write 18 and 43. So that's it. So I write 18 and 43. And now I look and I go, this is the pin code that you created together. If you had your 2-digit number and you had yours, raise your hand if I got your numbers. So 2 people raise their hand. If they don't raise their hand there, I look at them, I change 43 to 27, and then it's bound to hit as long as I haven't been going ridiculous with the amount of maths. If I've been going ridiculous, I'd wager on the side on 36 here, and that's it. But it also allows me to turn around and go, this is your number, correct?
Yeah.
Yes, which subtly suggests it's different now. This is your number when I cross it out, correct? Bang. So is there any, I know we sort of sped through that, but is there any questions on it? Because it is really simple and self-working.
It's super simple, really deceptive. But the one thing that like jumped out to me, which I don't know if we caught in the explanations, but I thought like this is an amazing parlor piece. You could get people following along in the audience if you wanted to. But I thought of like one presentational idea, which is no one else knows that we're all on 9. So we're all on 9. So as a performer, you could literally turn to this guy and say, was that your number? And he says yes. And now I cross out 6. And I just go to Pete, was that your number? He says yes,
Always
and I
pointing
cross
at the
out
9.
2, and I'm always pointing at the 9. I say, was that your number?
Yeah.
You say yes, I cross out the 3, and finally, was that your number? And they say yes. So I'm...
And each person will be returning to their seat one at
so
a
it's
time
like,
as that's happening.
So to an audience, I'm never showing them which one I cross out as individuals, but to the audience, I show the audience that I got everyone's number. And then it's like another layer of deception where it's like, they must have all had different numbers because he crossed out every number.
Yeah.
That's it. And another way to do that, just to quickly, because that's great, that idea of crossing them out. Another way to do this is if you take a stack of billets and you write the number 9 on 4 cards and you place them face up here, like this, and you say, right, I'm going to try to get these, don't react. So now I place 4 cards down that are blank and the 4 9s are on the bottom here. I write 2, 9, 6, 3 and I say, raise your hand if I got your number. So they raise their hand and I take these in a random order.
Yeah.
I put them there and I say, right, focus on what your number is, and I turn my hand over like this and I go, don't look at it just yet. I think that one's yours, so that'd have a 9 on it. I think that one's yours, that'd have a 9 on it. I think that one's yours, that's yours. And as you're going to look at these one at a time, and if I got your number, you walk past the bin, screw it up and drop it in on the bin on your way past.
Nice.
So you look at it, screw it, drop, you look at it, screw it, drop, you look at it, screw it, drop, and that's it, and that's all 4. Everybody cleans it up.
That's great.
Thinking about it as obviously that's great for stage and everything, but I always used to perform
Close up.
close up at gigs and cocktail bars and stuff. So for me, I'd have gone straight to having a pin code with a 9 in it on my phone. So you've got that extra little kicker at the end where you can reveal it that it's your
Pin code.
You know what you could do is you could say, I'm going to write down my pin code. You could write down 2963, yeah? So you could say this is my pin code. You give it, and your pin code is just
9999. Okay, I was just about to say the same
so
thing.
You could say,
Punch in your number, type in the number you're
punch
thinking of.
punch in yours.
Yeah.
That's, I thought
And then you
that.
could show the audience that
I was just
be
about to
that's
say
my pin
exact same
code,
thing.
and they got it right and it's open.
So
Yeah,
just
so
to
the
explain that, you
implication-
change your pin code to 9999. So now you have a digit, you have a digit, you have a digit, and you have a digit. I think that I'm going to start with you, put your number in there first, then pass it to who you feel it should go to, and then the last person.
Before you show the audience, you say, that's my pin code that unlocks this phone. So now the audience is aware of 2963, but everyone else is not.
And then the phone opens and
Yeah.
bang, you can check it out. So these little touches are all things that you can do outside of what it is that you're going to do, right? There's also another little thing with this. So if you have the knowledge that it's going to add up to 9, 18 or 27, what you can do there is you can say, right, think of one of those numbers. So they do. So you say, we'll do something slightly different with you. Think of one of those numbers. And now just call out the numbers you don't want. So now all they do is call out the numbers they don't want, and if it's above 9, you know it's going to be 18, and now you know how much it takes to make up 18, so you know their number. So let's say that it adds up to 15. You know you're only 3 away from 918, and then you know they're thinking of the number 3. Does that make sense? So you're just calling out the deficit, whatever the amount is, so you can have them have different numbers. So like, for example, let's say that you all added numbers up and you ended up with a 2, a 5 and 2 ones like you did before. And I say to you, right, just show each other your totals. So you're showing each other the totals. Think of one of those numbers and now call out the numbers you don't want. And if there's any repeats of your number, call the repeat out, but it doesn't matter. So call them out. So imagine you had 5, 2, 1 and 1 and you thought of one of the numbers.
Okay, so I think of 5.
So call out the numbers you don't want.
5, 1, 1.
Okay, so now I know 5 and 1 is 7.
Yeah.
So I know your number's 2.
Yeah.
And I go but look, when you call out numbers, yours would be different. You call out the numbers you don't want.
Yeah.
So now you can call out the numbers you don't want, and now I know it's 2, 6, 4, 3 or whatever it is, and the deficit tells me exactly what numbers you're thinking of, and now you don't need to fail. So just to give you an idea, if you open your phone, so you can all see this, just to give you a practical example, because it might be impossible to follow, but type in a single digit, times it by a single digit, times it by a single digit, times it by a single digit, and one more and press equals. So you have a total there. Right, just everybody look at each other's totals, so you'd all show them, they're all different. And the numbers that you choose will be different to everybody else's. Pick one of those numbers.
Yeah.
Now call out the rest of the numbers in any order you want. And if there's any repeats, call the repeats out also, but don't call out your number.
4, 1, 1.
So think about that. You wouldn't call those numbers out, but I now go 4, 1 and 1 is 6. That tells me you're thinking of a 3.
Yeah.
So now I know what your number is, right? Because it's how many to get to the nearest multiple of 9. If you did the same and you were on 12, I'd know it takes 6 to get to 18, so that's your number. So now I can just figure out the actual PIN code that everybody's using in this situation as well.
That could be like the first phase.
So you could
do that and then get them to add it up after, and then have another PIN code.
That's it. You could think about this. Imagine you got somebody to add numbers up and they randomly times in numbers, and you had a dictionary on the table.
Yeah.
So you knew that it'd be page 9, 18 or 27. And you get them to pick the first word on the page. Now all of a sudden you can nail the word.
Well, but here's the other thing, is they don't know that they're all on 9. So you could know the 9th page, the 9th line, and the 9th word. So you could say, okay, flick to the page you're thinking of. They go to 9. Next, count down the number of lines that you're thinking of. They count down 9 and count, and show them the line. Show the next person the line. You count across the number of words you want. So they count over 9. So no, they don't know, but you've done like a perfect force.
And that's it. There we go. You see, this is why these jam sessions are good,
Yeah.
right? You could even hand everybody the same book and ask them to sneakily peek at what the word is, the first word on the page.
Yeah.
And instead of writing down 2963, what you can write down is the one word that everybody's thinking of, and 3 words outside that nobody's thinking of, and say, if you see your word, take a seat, and now you can pick the most elaborate words that you want, and they're going to go take a seat as well. So it just allows you that option to open it up, do you know? And I think that's...
I guess the other thing you could do is, you could, because everyone's on 9, you could say, like, you get them all down to that single digit or whatever, you could memorize the first word on page 9, 18 and 27. So now when you go through it, you've got him down to a single digit. So you say, okay, you think of a word, the first word on this page that you're thinking of. You take it, this person's on 18 or 27. You think of that word, and now you've got 3 word divinations
that you can do in a moment's notice. Yeah. It just makes real simple sense to do it that way. Yeah. Another thing is, and again, I'm going to briefly mention this, and then I'm good to move on. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah.
Is the old grey elephants in Denmark?
Yeah.
So it's A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, which would be I. If you ask somebody to think of a country that started with that, it's going to be India or Indonesia, and then the last letter in that's going to be A, and you ask them to think of an animal, it's probably going to be an alligator or an aardvark. Right? Or you could think of something that's really restrictive to the letter A, and then you could use the old grey elephants in Denmark gig and say, I didn't know that there were many alligators in Indonesia, do you know what I mean, or whatever. And you'd have to find better categories in those countries, but those force words, you could do a similar version of the grey elephants in Denmark by forcing that. If you had a name beginning with an I, And you said, I tell you what, think of a male name that starts with this letter.
You just gave me an idea, which is like, you could confabulation the out of it.
That's
So
what I was gonna say.
you've got a force card at number 9. So position 9, let's say it's the King of Hearts. So you've got King of Hearts there. You've got a force word on the first word on page 9 of a dictionary is whatever, it's written down there. And then you've got the last number in your pin code is 9. So, you know, I don't know what your number is. I think it's the last number in my actual pin code. So you type in 263 and you leave it one thing. Okay, type in the number you're thinking of. They type it in, boom, you've opened the phone. Second, deal down to the number that you're thinking of and remember that card. Cool, and then you've got the prediction inside a wallet or an envelope. And then finally,
The book.
You know, you're thinking of a word on any page. That was a completely random choice. The word you're thinking of is, and then.
And that gives you a really beautiful ability to do it.
Yeah.
Now, just to say, sometimes what you're going to run into is the worry of people talking. If you're doing this pin code divination in close-up. So this is exactly what you can do if you want to nail a pin code. So let's say you've all arrived at 9, right? And I say, your number's random, yours is random, yours is random, and yours is random. But let's make it a little bit more random. With you, I want you just to say, take 1 off of your number. Will you take 3 off of it? With you, I want you to go right to the opposite end of the spectrum in the single digits. Okay. And will you just keep it the same? So now you know that it's going to be 8, you know it's going to be 6, you know it's going to be 1, and then you'd know that there's going to be 9. So you can nail the actual pin code by getting them to move up and down. Yeah. So that allows you to cleanly do that in close-up without the worry of people talking.
But I guess another thing you do is this. So you say, you know everyone's on 9. So you say, I think I've got yours. I want you to double it, and I want you to triple it. And so that so you know it's 9, 18, 27. So you get yours as 9. You say it might not be in this order, but does that make sense to you? And to everyone else, it could be 81. Did I get your number? Yeah. And then the next one's 27. So you've got everyone's number tripled.
That's great.
Could you add this to like an ACAN? So where you put a certain card at like 9th, 18th. Like
That's how I did it originally in the very first version of this.
Oh,
so what I do is I'd either use the equivoque of the playing card, or the one where somebody thought of a number and then changed their mind and back to the Queen of Hearts, and then what I'd have is I'd have the Queen of Hearts and diamonds and the spade, so 9, 18, 27, and I can have the fourth one at 36 if I want. Then when I say, now you've arrived at a random number, what's the number? They'd give me the number. I'd literally run through the Queen force and just use the suit thing as an equivoque. So I just forced the suit that were at the relevant position.
Oh, wow, yeah.
So that was the original sort of version using the bank of the 4 queens. And so if you know the equivoque thing on this project, you remember that from years ago. I'd have the 4. I did it on Russ Andrews' Destination DVD set. And so they have the bank of the 4s in the 4 possible positions. And then you just get them, and let's be as random as possible. Now imagine never touching anybody's phone. You're going to change your mind, you're going to arrive at a random number, you've got a number in your head, you're changing your mind, it ends up being that card at that number.
Well, it makes sense in that case because if you're using a deck, you want to condense the numbers. So it makes sense, hey, why don't we just make the number smaller, add each digit together. So it actually makes logical sense.
That's it. Just to make sure this is not over 50. That's a great touch, that never made it on there.
Yeah. But what I was going to mention is that, what I love is, by the way, listening all your ideas, and I'm like, wow, these are all like solid gold. It's like, God damn it. But somebody mentioned earlier that it's a predetermined number, essentially. So if you're doing a prediction at the end of your set, if this is like a stage bit, and then you're having that massive prediction, everybody's already confirmed that whatever that 4-digit number is correct. So you could add that to the final prediction. If it could be, tied into a bigger thing.
Like the day's date. Imagine doing it on like the 9th of September.
Uh-huh.
And so you put the full date laid out and you ask like 7 or 8 people to stand up simultaneously.
That could be an important year. That could be anything that you want, as long as I guess it has a 9 in it, right? It could be pretty much anything you wanted to give it to. You could have it on a coin.
Yeah. Great. I think we should move on to the
Yeah,
next
I think we should wrap up there.
Great.